will be changing this revolver from double action to single action. I've already removed the grips and one of the screws to hold the plate on. I will remove the other one, and I'm only opening it far enough that I can feel it comes out of the threads, but I will leave it in because this screw also holds the trigger in. I'm removing the plate. Here we have the actuator that turns the cylinder. This is the safety that prevents the hammer from hitting the firing pin. And down here is this little piece, looks like a little tongue, which is held in place by a pin and a spring in here, and that part is the one we need to take out that makes it double action. So the first step is to take the mainspring out. There's a little hole. And comes out. I'm removing the lever for the cylinder. I'm removing the safety lever. And you can see this part right here, which is the double action part. It rides on a little wheel that is right here. And so we need to remove the hammer, which is in the frame with this pin that goes through both sides of the hammer. This pin does not come out. This pin here sometimes falls out, and that is where the mainspring is riding on. So I am, and also important is that the hammer is under the trigger. So when we reassemble that, that's important. And I want to take this out. This part right here is the part that is being pushed forward when you open the cylinder. It has a little spring. That spring has a hole in here. It really only goes in one way. It sits on this side, and then it goes back in here. Like this. Because of that spring, the hole where that hammer pin goes through is not always lined up, and that sometimes gives a little bit of a problem later when we put it back together, but it's just a matter of working it. This part again is the double action part. It is spring loaded. It has one side with a small hole, one side with a larger hole where the pin holds the spring and this device in. So it just comes out. Here's the little pin. And this assembly right here. This is the lever part. And then there's a spring in here. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's a hole right here where the spring goes. And for double action, it is together for single action, we will just take this out. I'm going to take these three parts, the spring, the pin, and this part here, to put it aside so I don't lose any of the parts. And this little pin here is the one I was mentioning that is has come out from the hammer where the mainspring sits on. So this part of the hammer goes under here, which is the trigger. This part goes in here. Okay. Now, this little wheel down here tries to escape. I'm going to put it back because when the part that moves the cylinder goes back in here, that needs to go through both of those, the hole of the trigger and the little wheel down here. So I'm going to put the main spring back in. This part here rides on this here, and I'm going to put that back in. I'll take the pin out of the hammer, and I have tension again. So you see the hammer is under the trigger right here. We have the little wheel. I'm putting the safety back. The safety goes on the bottom hole. The cylinder part actuator goes here, and the little wheel is not in place. That's why it doesn't go in. And I got it right here. So now it's back together. Single action only. I will demonstrate that, but I would put the plate back on so we don't have these parts falling out. The little notch goes into the frame up here. I'm going to make sure that this is parallel and this is parallel. And I'm tightening the screw back up just so that we don't have any parts fall out on the inside from the trigger. So I have single action, and the double action does not work anymore. Only single action.